Do you want to know how frugal living can make your whole life better? In this video, I'm going to give you 9 tips. These are 9 lessons that I've learned about frugal living and how it can improve your life. And stick around to the very end for a bonus tip that almost no one talks about. Welcome, I'm Amy, and here at Frugal Over 50, I give you tips and tools for frugal living, all personally tested by me. Now let's get right to it. First of all, I chose 9 life lessons because this month in October, I turned 54. And I thought about giving 54 life lessons, but then I thought, what about if I do 5 plus 4? 9. So 9 life lessons that I would love to share with you about how frugal living has improved my life and can improve yours. Number 1, debt brings stress. This is so obvious that I probably shouldn't have to say it out loud, but it's something that I've really struggled with for a very long time. I didn't understand that the reason I felt so much stress all the time was because I was constantly getting myself into debt. I would think, well, I'm going to get another paycheck very soon, so I'll just get this now and I'll put it on my credit card and then I'll pay for it when I get my paycheck. But then the paycheck would come and I would have to pay for a car repair, and then I couldn't pay off that credit card bill. And I was constantly getting into more and more debt without really understanding why or how. I had very little grasp of my finances, and I didn't understand that the debt itself was causing stress. And so I would constantly buy more things thinking this will take care of it. It became a really vicious cycle, and it brought so much stress to my life. Finally coming to acknowledge that debt brings stress just brought so much clarity for me that it helped me to improve my whole life. I wasn't able to turn it around instantly, certainly not, but it really helped. One of the first things that I had to do, realizing that debt brings stress, is I had to understand that I only have a certain amount of money and I can only spend that certain amount of money on a certain amount of stuff. And after that, the money is gone, and then you get into debt. Once I understood that process, which seems very simple to explain now, it changed my whole life. If you are struggling with debt and wondering why it's bringing you stress, well, join the human race. Lesson number 2. Women need to face our finances and our financial lives square on and honestly. This is something that many of us were not brought up to do. We were brought up to believe, in fact, I remember my mother telling me that I could do whatever I wanted with my life career-wise because I would have a man to support me. This was a message that she also had heard from her mother. It was just expected of us that the way we would take care of our financial lives would be to marry a man, of course, and then to take care of the children in the house. These are very traditional things, at least in my culture. It may be a little bit different in yours, but this is pretty true for women most places in the world if you were brought up as a woman. And so the idea of me as just myself, as a person, looking at my own finances was not something I was trained to do. And we need to look at this. Women live longer than men, generally speaking, and women also earn much less than men. And if you are a woman of color, that gap is astronomically wide. And we need to look at the truth of that reality. We need to look at what we can do to change that for ourselves, for our daughters, for our communities, so that women can have financial stability. But we do need to look at our own personal finances. This was a tough one for me. Just looking at them square on and even believing that I had the intelligence. I had a master's degree, for heaven's sake, and I didn't believe that I had the intelligence to look at money honestly. But I do, and I think you do too. We can look at our money honestly. Life lesson number 3 comes right out of numbers 1 and 2. Once you have realized that, oh my gosh, I'm in debt, this causes stress, and once you realize that I actually need to face my finances head on myself, it can cause a fair amount of what I would call fancily self-recrimination, saying not nice things to ourselves and treating ourselves pretty badly inside our own heads. And so number 3 is speak kindly to yourself. about your financial situation, about your life, about your money, about your priorities. Be kind to yourself. You are where you are because of the choices you've made and because of the life circumstances that you were born into. And that combination of factors has brought you to where you are right now. But one of the places that you are right now is here, understanding your debt and understanding your finances. And you get to be proud of yourself for that. And I get to be proud of myself for being where I am on my journey. I have a major case of imposter syndrome having a YouTube channel talking about frugal living. And I think, but I'm not perfectly frugal at all times. That's okay. It's okay to be on our journey. It's okay to speak kindly to ourselves. How would you speak to a cherished friend who was in a situation like the one you're in? Speak that kindly to yourself. Now, if you're looking for something especially kind that you can do for yourself, I hope that you'll consider subscribing here to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll get notified first whenever I upload a new video. And also give this video a like if you like this kind of content, and share this with a friend or with somebody who you know could use help and encouragement on their frugal journey. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to it. Lesson number 4. You need a budget. I know, when I paused, in your head, if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you filled that in. You need a budget. In fact, I love budgeting so much that I subscribe to a program called You Need a Budget, and I have a playlist about it, and if you're interested in trying it out, I'll leave a link below. But the reason that I like You Need a Budget and any kind of budgeting system like it is because it specifically helps you to identify how much money you have, identify your financial priorities, and then help you plan for how to get where you're going. It doesn't ask you to spend money that you don't have. If you have it in your checking account, you get to plan with it. If you don't have it in your account, you can't plan with it. And so it helps you to get out and stay out of debt. You may not choose the particular program that I have. There are many out there, including free ones, including pen and paper if you prefer that method. But you do need a budget. I have a confession to make in regard to the budget. Although if you have been with me on this channel for any length of time, you know that I am constantly singing the praises of the budget. Even so, I am very new to budgeting. I'm turning 54 this month, and I have been budgeting for only about 5 years. I used to try to budget, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no guidance. I didn't understand that there were programs out there that I could study, that I could learn from. And I'm telling you, don't be like me. Learn from people who already know how to do it if you are new to budgeting. If you are an experienced budgeter, I would love it if you would share down below in the comments, what is your favorite budgeting tip? Because our next life lesson is one that was really hard for me to learn 5 years ago when I started budgeting. It is that you have to plan in your budget for regular but intermittent expenses that are coming up so that they don't surprise you and feel like emergencies. For instance, every year, once a year or once a quarter, depending on how I choose to pay for it, my insurance is due. I have all of my insurance bundled together, and so it's house, car, umbrella, everything that I need insured gets in one package, and it's due every year at a certain time. I know this. I have known this for decades, and yet every year it has surprised me and slightly offended me. Why do I have to pay this? Well, that's just silly on my part, really, because I could save up every month and be ready. And I am here to tell you that after 5 years of budgeting, this is the first year that I have the full amount saved up by the time that it is due. And I did this by saving up a certain amount every month. I took the amount that I expected to pay this year in November, and I started saving last year a little bit at a time. And I have a category in my budget where I just put money in, and I put money in, and I put money in, and I trust myself to keep adding that amount up until it gets to time to pay the bill. It's a wonderful feeling. And if you are in a situation where that is difficult because you can't quite save the right amount every single month, put aside a little bit, because a little bit is better than none. If you can be saving a little bit at a time towards large expenses, then they are not emergencies. They are expected expenses, and it is such an important sense of peace, that you get when you can plan for intermittent expenses. Life lesson number 6 is all about mindset. What is money for? Why do we even have it? Why don't we just exchange a sack of potatoes for a sack of flour? Well, for whatever reason, we use money as currency. We use it to pay for everything that we need in life and everything that we want in life. And so it's important to think about it. We can divide it, broadly speaking, into 3 categories. We can divide it into our needs, the things that keep us alive, the things that keep us going from day to day, from year to year throughout our life. We can also have a second category that money is for, and that is for enjoyment, for pleasure, for the wants that we have, the things that we really love. And then the third category is for helping others. And this can come in the form of charity that we provide. It can come in the form of legacies that we leave or gifts for family members. Any sort of helping others comes into this third category. So whether it's a need, whether it's a beautiful, lovely experience that you want, or whether it's helping others, money is really quite a wonderfully useful tool. And many times we forget that mindset and we think of it as this sort of evil, scary thing. It's not. It's a tool that helps us to lead better lives. Now, coming out of number 6, we get into number 7, which is when you know what money is for, then you can prioritize what you're going to do with your money. Now, we all know from the days of easy air travel that we would talk to each other about putting on our own oxygen mask first. This is something that moms tend to tell each other often. Put on your own oxygen mask first, because if you have children, then you know that you tend to think, if my kids are okay, I'm okay. And that may not be true. And it can be a delicate balance for those of us who have been around families or have raised families or have spent time in community where we're working with other people, and we think, they need it more than I do. I'm okay how I am. But it's important that we take care of ourselves and that we attend to our own needs, and then look at those around us who really depend on us, whether it be family members or friends or community or even the larger world, if you're thinking of, say, a legacy that you'd like to leave. But make sure that you understand your own priorities, and it's okay to start with you. Lesson number 8 has been one of the biggest benefits for me of starting this YouTube channel, and that is I have learned that starting a conversation about frugal living and frugal living tips and saving money is a great way to meet people and to make friends. It's a subject that a lot of people are very interested in, and you don't have to stop somebody at the grocery store checkout line and start talking about frugal living. I'm not talking about that sort of thing. But I think that we need to understand that most of us are interested in taking good care of our money and our things and our lives. And if we can talk about frugal living in a way that shares our joy, we can make new friends. I've certainly made lots of wonderful friends in you, and I thank you very much for being here with me. And I don't know if it's just rubbed off in my real life or if I'm more sensitive to it, but for instance, I recently had the experience where I went to the eye doctor and I had to have an expensive eye test. Well, he did the pre-test to find out if I really needed the expensive eye test, and he said to me, "Actually, you're fine. You don't need the expensive eye test. You're great." He said to me, "I just saved you $300. Isn't that great?" And I said, "Yes, it is great. Thank you so much." And we had a wonderful conversation about a frugal eye appointment. So these kinds of conversations can bring lots of happiness to our lives, and I would encourage you to have more of them. Now, lesson 9 is a tricky one, but I want you to believe me when I tell you, you are more together than you think you are. As I mentioned earlier, we often feel like we don't deserve to speak kindly to ourselves or to take care of ourselves with our money, and we can feel like we don't really have it all together. I mentioned feeling imposter syndrome about this very channel and talking to you about frugal living, because I'm not perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, isn't that nice to know that we're not perfect? And you are more together than you think. Wherever you are in your phase of life, wherever you are in your frugal journey, the fact that you're thinking about it, the fact that you're focusing on it, means that you are getting things together in a way that's going to benefit you, and a way that probably already has benefited you. So give yourself credit. Now, I promised you a bonus that almost no one talks about, and I want to give you a quote from a gentleman named Trent Ham, who runs a website called The Simple Dollar. And he writes a lot of really wonderful, helpful things. I'm going to link his website down below. Go check him out. He's got a lot of great stuff to say. And I read this wonderful quote from him about what it means to live frugally. And he uses the expression being thrifty and what it means for our world that you are being thrifty. Here's what Trent Ham says. Being thrifty isn't bad for the economy. It's just a different kind of consumption. Money saved and invested helps the economy as much as money spent. This is a beautiful sentiment because a lot of times when we start on our frugal journey, we really understand for the very first time how consumption-driven our society is. And we worry that if we all stop consuming, that our economy will collapse. But Trent Ham points out that this is not the case. By being thrifty, we are investing our time and our money in things that are worthwhile. And we too are driving our economy. And by being thrifty, by living frugally, we are improving the world. And so I would like to conclude by saying to you, live frugally, change your life, and you will change your world. Wherever you are on your frugal living journey today, I want you to know that I am so proud of you, and you are not alone. And I can't wait to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.